Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 11 of my Tkinter video tutorial series. In this part, I'm going to cover how to handle mouse events. The color picker will be created, as well as we will have a working pencil tool by the end of the video. All of the code is available in the resources directory, and I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Alright, so I want the option for the user to be able to pick both their stroke as well as their fill color. So I need to go and import the color chooser. And I'll import everything for that. Next thing I want to do is I need to be able to store my drawing settings since I'm adding some new features. So I'm going to add stroke size. And that's going to be an integer. Again, so anytime you see this, you know that we're going to be changing these values inside of our menus more than likely. The fill color is going to be a string, and our stroke color is also going to be stored as a string. Next thing I want to do after that is create our color menu, and it's going to have the fill, which is whenever clicked on is going to open up the color picker. The stroke's going to do the same, and we're also going to have radio buttons that are going to allow us to change the stroke size. So I'll go down inside of our menu system we have down here and just add that right in right before we go and call root config. So I'm going to call this our color menu. Again, we're going to be doing the same type of things. So let's just go and copy this, paste that down inside of there. And this is going to be called the color menu. And then we need to add a command to this. So let's just come up here and grab that. So I'm going to say color menu, add command, and give it a label, which is equal to fill, which is going to be the fill color. And the command is going to be tied into a function called pick fill. And of course, it doesn't exist, so why don't we create it? So I'm going to come right down here, right before the initialization function. And I'm going to say define and pick fill. I'm going to set the event, give it a default of none. And then the fill color is going to be received by calling ask color, which is going to be provided to us by the color chooser. That's one of the functions. And all I'm going to do here is give that window a title, which is going to be equal to pick fill color. Then I'm going to say if none not in fill color, which is going to be returned. What I'm going to do is get a hexadecimal value, and I just want to make sure that none is not involved in that. Then I can say self fill color, and I'll show you exactly what's going on, and set the fill color equal to the second item returned. And here I'll just go and print this. So we'll say color self and fill color get, which is the value that's assigned. All right, and then we're going to do basically the same thing for pick the stroke, and I'll show you in a second exactly what is being returned here from the color chooser. And this is going to be called pick stroke, almost exactly the same. So just change this to stroke color, pick stroke color. Of course, this is stroke color, and again stroke color, and stroke color. And everything else there is exactly the same. We can change this to stroke color if we'd like, and change this to fill color. This is going to print in our console, of course. All right, and we'll get back to what those do after I go and get the menu items all perfectly working here. Actually, since I'm already down here, why don't I just go in and actually put those defaults in here. I'm going to change this to pencil because in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make the pencil tool actually work. So we will be drawing in this part of the tutorial. And then I'm going to set the defaults for stroke size. So I'm going to say self and stroke size, which is going to be set to 3 by default. And again, I'm going to do the fill color and set. And you're going to see I'm going to make this black. There that is. And I'm going to do that. And this is the value that's going to be returned from the color chooser. right here, whenever we call this, fill color is going to be assigned that value. And I'm going to do the same thing for our stroke color as a default, black. Another thing I want to do, since I'm already down here, is whenever this program is loaded, I want to put focus on the canvas area so that all the events that are called are going to be automatically triggered on the canvas. How you do that is you say drawing, area, focus, and force. So there we go with that. All right, so back up into our color menu area, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm also going to call for the stroke color chooser to be called. So I'm just going to call this stroke, and that is called pick stroke. Why don't we put this on the next line here? Works a little bit better. Then after that, we're going to have submenus that are going to be tied into the stroke size. I'm going to call this stroke width, and this is a submenu. Of course, it's going to be radio buttons again. So after we create that, or how to create it, again, is just to call menu and color menu, which is what we're tying it to. And then I just need to add a whole bunch of radio buttons again. So let's just go and copy all this stuff, paste it down inside of here, change this to stroke width submenu, paste that in there. And then we just have to go and put a label inside of here, which is going to be the number 2. This is called stroke size. And then let's go and give this a value of 2. All right, so we have those all set up, and then I just need to do that 4 more times. So stroke size, and we're going to change this to 3, and change this to 3, change this to 4, change this to 4, and then finally add in 5 and 5. And then after we have all those set, we can go and add it to our color menu by saying color menu and add cascade, give it a label, which is going to be stroke size, and then say menu is equal to stroke width submenu, and then call the menu and add cascade again, give it a label, which is going to be color as you saw before, and then point at the actually newly created menu, which is called color menu. And there we are, looking good. And now we have our menu system completely configured. And now what we need to do is come in and start handling mouse events. So one mouse event I want to handle here is going to be called the mouse up mouse event. So just go left button down and event set to none. And let's go pass here for a second. Let's go and define all these, but then go and actually bind the event to an actual event. And I think it'll be more understandable if I do it this way. So again, define left but up. And again, we're going to have event is equal to none. And pass just basically just allows me to, work this code up. And if this function is called, it just basically does nothing. What else am I going to need to do in regards to triggering or tracking events? Well, I'm going to have to also catch mouse movement. So I'm going to call this motion. And again, event none, pass. And then I'm also going to create the function that's going to allow us to draw with our pencil, because I promised we were going to be able to draw in this one. So I'm going to call this pencil draw and event none, and again pass on that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is bind these functions, which I promise I'm going to actually do in this tutorial, down here in the initialization function. So I'm going to say that any events done inside of my drawing area, I want to bind those events, which the first one's going to be motion. I'm going to bind them or handle them in my motion function. And I'm going to bind the other events also to those functions that will then handle those events. So if they press on the left mouse button, that is triggered by button press 1. And what we're going to call in that situation is left butt down. And if we come in here, we can also get button release 1. And that is going to call the function left butt up. All right. So good stuff. Now we have to make these functions work. So what are we going to do whenever the left mouse button is pressed down? Well, we are going to, I don't know if you remember, but way up inside of here, left mouse button, I had it in the up position. So I'm going to change that to the down position. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Paste that in there and change it to down. Then what I'm going to do is set my X and Y positions for where the mouse was clicked. So I'll say self, and that's going to be an X1 line point. And how I get that point is call event and X. Then I'm basically going to do the same thing for Y, and that is all I'm going to do in this function. But you're going to see how powerful this is. And I just call Y on that. And that is it. That's all I'm doing. So what are we going to do whenever the left mouse button is in the up position? Well, I'm going to say self left butt and change it to up. I'm then going to reset our line drawings. So I'll say self dot X position to none. Do the same thing for our Y position. So change that to Y. You'll see here in a second what this does. Then I want to set my X and Y to where the mouse button was released, and that's going to allow me to do things like draw rectangles and ellipses and all that stuff. And that's going to be in X2 line point, and I get where it was released by calling event X. And again, I'm going to come in, change this to Y, and change this to Y. So this is going, like, let's say we're drawing a rectangle. Whenever we press down, where we press down is going to be stored. That's going to be in the upper left-hand corner, for example, of the rectangle. Then let's say we go down and to the right. The next, where we release it, is going to be stored here. And that is going to allow us to go in and draw rectangles with the X and Y point in the upper left-hand corner and the X and Y point in the bottom right-hand corner. Then what we want to do is if the mouse is released, we're going to do different things depending upon what tool we are using. So I'm going to say if self drawing tool get is equal to line. Well, in that situation, I'm going to call self line draw, which is going to be a function that I will actually make work in the next part of the tutorial. And I'm going to go and actually create those under draw pencil. So I'm going to say define line draw and event is none, and I'll define that as pass. And I'm going to do that for all of my different drawing tools, and we'll get to them in the next part of the tutorial. So we're also going to have arc draw and oval draw and rectangle draw and text draw. And that will be all of them. All right, good stuff. So now I got to do the same thing here for all of the other different drawing options. So I'll say else if self drawing tool dot get is equal to arc. Well, guess which one I'm going to call? I'm going to call self and arc draw and event. And then I'll do the same thing again. Well, let me just copy this down here. And it's going to be, instead of arc, it's going to be set to oval. And I will call oval draw, of course. And if it is rectangle, I'm going to call rectangle draw. And then if it is text, I will call text draw. All right. And that is the end of what we're going to do if the left mouse button is released. So what are we going to do if the mouse is moving around? Well, I'm going to say if self drawing tool get is equal to pencil then I'm going to start drawing on my screen. Self, and that is called pencil draw. There it is. And of course, pass the event. And now we are going to start doing all the code for drawing with our pencil. So we're doing some cool stuff here. So how do we draw with a pencil? Well, I'm going to say if self left button is in the down position, that means it's time to draw. So how are we going to draw? We're basically just going to create lines over and over and over again every single time the mouse moves. To do that, first what I want to do is make sure that X position and Y position have a value. So I'm going to say if self X position is not none and self Y position is not none. Well, that means I got some X and Y positions I can use to draw lines. Then I'm going to say event widget create line. And how you create a line is you say what is the X position that I'm starting with and the Y position. And then I can call event. Let's go and go to the next line. Then I can call event X and event Y. This is going to be called every single time there's motion with an updated X and Y position. That's what this guy does. Then I'm going to say that I want Tkinter's canvas to try to smooth the line. What else am I going to do? I'm going to say that my fill color for this line is going to be equal to whatever the stroke color is set for. I'm then going to set it to the stroke color. And then I can define my stroke size, which I also have to call get on, and I have to do the same thing for color. And there we go. Good stuff. And now if we don't have any errors, we can test it out. There's my canvas inside of the root, so that's not good. Let's close that and fix it. And I do that down in here by defining the width and the height for my canvas to be exactly the same as my root. Run it again, see how we're doing here. So I'm going to go color, fill, and I can pick a color over here. Let's say blue, and say OK. And then I can come in and do stroke. And let's go and pick green, for example, and I can go and change that color as much as I would like. Click on OK. And then tool is set for pencil. And try to draw. Can't draw anything. What's going on? We can see over here that our hexadecimal values are being placed in there like we would like. But let's figure out what the error is. I think I figured it out. What I need to do with my pencil tool is every single time I run through this, after I draw the line, what I need to do is set my new X position to whatever the previous was. So it's going to be drawing line, 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 line every single time as I drag. So to do that, I just need to go self and X position is equal to whatever the last passed in event X position was. And then do the same thing for Y. This like that, and this like that. And now it should work. So let's run it. And color, and fill, and let's just pick this. That looks good. And click on OK, and do the same for stroke. And that is, let's just have them both be blue. Stroke size, let's make it 4 just to do it. Tool is pencil, and we were writing. All right, cool stuff. But why is it black? It should be set to what we had it set for. Let's make sure there's blue. Still set for black. Let's figure that out. And I figured it out. I forgot to change that to stroke color. So now it should work. Stroke. And let's make it blue again like this. And there it works. All right, so cool stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that tutorial. All the code's in the resources directory. And in the next video, I'm going to make all the other tools work. So like always, please leave your questions and comments down below. Otherwise, till next time.